Nigel Farage recently delivered a powerful and unexpected speech that resonated across the nation, issuing a scathing critique of Prime Minister Keir Starmer's leadership. In his remarks, Farage voiced serious concerns about the Labour government's failure to address key national challenges, emphasising that the stakes for the country's future have never been higher. He warned that without urgent and decisive action, the UK's economic prosperity and sovereignty could face irreversible decline. Farage's speech, though blunt and unapologetic, was framed not just as criticism, but as a stark warning about the growing dangers that threaten the nation's stability and independence. Nigel Farage has intensified his criticism of the UK government over its handling of immigration, pointing to the growing influx of migrants crossing the English Channel as a significant failure. According to Farage, the situation has spiraled out of control, with illegal migrants now constituting over 1% of the country's population. This surge, he claims, has not only ignited widespread public anger, but also raised serious concerns about national security. Farage's critique extended beyond the sheer number of migrants, focusing on the demographics of those entering the country. He expressed particular alarm over the fact that many of the migrants are young men of fighting age, whose backgrounds remain unknown. Farage framed this as a critical security issue, arguing that the government's inability to identify or vet individuals effectively poses a direct risk to public safety. To illustrate his concerns, Farage cited the example of Madap Pasa, a migrant originally from Stockholm, who has drawn attention on social media for flaunting his journey across Europe. Pasa, a self-described influencer, has posted videos on TikTok detailing his attempts to enter the UK illegally, accompanied by troubling imagery. Farage highlighted footage showing Pasa camping with groups of young men in northern France, waiting for an opportunity to cross into Britain. What alarmed Farage most was the aggressive content in Pasa's posts, including a Kalashnikov tattoo on his face and videos of him brandishing a real firearm. Farage described individuals like Pasa as seeking a life of indulgence, not refuge, and condemned the lack of consequences for their actions, warning that the government's leniency invites further abuse of the asylum system. Despite spending over £500 million in deals with France to prevent illegal crossings, the British government has made little progress in curbing the flow of migrants. Farage criticised these efforts as ineffective, arguing that the crossings continue unabated. He contended that without decisive deterrence, such as immediate deportation, the migrants will likely settle permanently, placing further strain on housing and welfare services. Farage warned that the government's failure to act decisively risks incentivizing more illegal immigration, undermining public trust in the system. As public frustration mounts, Farage's warnings reflect a growing sentiment that stronger measures are needed to address the crisis at the border. With calls for tighter immigration controls gaining momentum, the government faces increasing pressure to demonstrate that it can regain control of the situation and address the public's concerns. Whether policymakers will heed these warnings remains to be seen, but the debate over immigration shows no signs of abating. Nigel Farage used his latest speech to deliver a scathing critique of Labour leader Keir Starmer, warning that the party's policies on immigration and foreign relations threaten to undo the achievements of Brexit and undermine the UK's sovereignty. Farage argued that Labour's approach to the European Union risks dragging the nation back into Brussels' influence, eroding the independence the country fought to reclaim. He emphasised that at a time when decisive leadership is crucial, Labour's policies are weakening the UK's standing on the global stage, leaving the country vulnerable to external pressures. Farage also took aim at Labour's economic strategy, warning that the government's high tax policies could drive wealthy individuals and businesses to relocate abroad, further burdening working-class citizens who remain. He painted a grim picture of the financial consequences for ordinary families, claiming that Labour's tax hikes would shift the economic weight onto those least able to afford it. This is not just bad economics, it's a betrayal of the people who believed in a post-Brexit future, he said. In the controversial section of his speech, Farage referenced recent polling data showing increasing public dissatisfaction with Starmer's leadership. Citing a YouGov poll, he claimed that Starmer's popularity has fallen to levels comparable with Farage's during his most polarizing moments. However, Farage took the opportunity to boast that his current popularity outstrips that of not only Starmer, but also Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey. He attributed this surge in support to the momentum generated by Reform UK, which he described as a fresh and necessary force in British politics. Farage ended his speech with a passionate appeal for citizens to back Reform UK, framing the movement as the only viable path to real political change. He urged supporters to rally behind the party's agenda, which includes stricter immigration controls, withdrawal from the European Court of Human Rights, and the creation of an economy that rewards hard work and innovation. Farage warned that the Labour Party's policies are steering the nation away from its core values, calling on voters to reject what he described as outdated, elite-driven politics. What Britain needs, Farage declared, is a revolution rooted in good, common British patriotic sense. The speech reflects Farage's strategy of positioning Reform UK as an anti-establishment alternative in a political climate marked by growing voter dissatisfaction. With frustration mounting over the perceived failures of both Labour and the Conservatives, Farage is betting that his call for a political overhaul will resonate with disillusioned voters seeking a new direction for the country. The speech has ignited a national debate over the country's future trajectory, highlighting deep divisions on immigration policy and leadership. While some supporters resonate with Nigel Farage's critiques, viewing his call for stricter immigration controls as a necessary step towards safeguarding national interests, others denounce his remarks as alarmist and divisive, further polarizing public discourse. As the controversy unfolds, questions are growing about Keir Starmer's ability to lead a party seemingly at odds with its core values. Should Starmer step down amid mounting criticism and allegations of disconnection from voters? Leave a comment, yes or no, and share your thoughts below.